Good morning. So today I'm going to talk about, I did it again. Got to do better about positioning my phone. I put it in wrong and it'll be flashing something at me because I'm pushing buttons. So today we're going to talk about why we don't let you walk through the kennels anymore. I was here at this shelter. It's what got me started in all this. Back in 2011. So I remember when everybody was allowed to walk through the kennels. And if you used to come then and you come now, you're going to see the things that I'm talking about, or hear the things that I'm talking about. When I was there the first time, those poor dogs never stopped barking pretty much the whole day unless we didn't have visitors. They barked all the time. It kept them very high stressed, and it made it nearly impossible to talk or like to a person in the office or on the phone because the dogs were going crazy. So you would have to you'd sometimes have to walk outside to talk on the phone and even to talk to people. And that wasn't pleasant for us. It wasn't pleasant for people visiting. No one wants to come and listen to the dogs bark. It's hard if you like dogs at all. You're going to have a hard time hearing them bark like that. Some of the barks can sound really scary, so you can assume that they are not nice dogs, which is absolutely not true. So it was, much different. The dogs were sitting there barking a lot. It was chaos. They were spinning and losing it. And at the time, that's what everybody did. That's what we thought we had to do. It definitely is less time consuming for the staff to just say, sure, walk back there, tell us if you see anybody. The part of it besides the noise, there was also the problem of, if someone had a question about a certain dog, you couldn't go back there and explain it. You would have to have them point it out, go out up front, explain it, and all of that. And then again, the dogs would act kind of crazy. They have messed in their kennels. Maybe it's cold, so we've got them locked inside, so they've had no option to not mess in their kennels. And it looks like they're going to be hard to house train. They're walking through it. It makes you think that they're going to be nasty. And the sad part is that 98% of what you see of a dog in a kennel like that, in that environment, is not the dog that you're getting. I started to figure that out when I was volunteering there, and then I was on the board, and then I actually worked there for a little bit, that when I took a couple of dogs home, and one of them, I actually adopted them both, and my pit bull in her kennel acted like something you would not want to mess with. My husband liked her, spent some time with her, so we took a chance, brought her home for a weekend to see what she was like outside of the shelter. Absolutely different dog. No, she wasn't scary at all. She was super sweet. In fact, the first time we brought her home, we pulled into the driveway and the guy was reading our electric meter, and we let her right out to say hi to him, and she was fine. We did find out it was the kennel and they had a dog sitting with her, and it turns out that her aggressiveness at the kennel was to tell you to stay away from the partner that she had, because it turned out he wasn't so nice. And so she was trying to tell us, but being a pit bull and acting like that, it was hard to be okay with it. That was really my first experience around pit bulls. She really changed a lot in me on that one. And the other dog we ended up adopting also acted like an absolute fool in her kennel. Very aggressive. That part didn't really change outside with strangers. However, she had lived there for 3 years by the time we adopted her, so her fear of strangers was legit, because people walking in and out of her area, her home, during that time, and it was hard for her because she's trapped and she can't get away, and all these strangers get to keep coming back and forth. So she had practiced trying to scare them off for 3 years. However, what was definitely an eye-opener for me with her was she kept, when she would see us, she would get excited, or if she was scared, she would run through, and she always pooped right in front of her doors, right? Which to us humans makes no sense, right? You're going to walk right through it. Well, in her world, she's just trying to poop as far away from all her stuff as she could. So when she would come to see you, she would step in it and it would go flying when she jumped on the kennel or when she was acting a fool. And I remember worrying that she was going to be hard to house train. Because to me, that was a house training issue. She was stepping in it. That's a house training issue. She's going in her kennel. That's a house training issue. I hadn't figured out yet, well, you can only hold it so long before you got to go. And, you know, even if they went out 2 times a day, that still leaves you 16 hours from 5 o'clock at night until 9 a.m. the next day to hold it. So of course they're going to go, right? I couldn't hold it 16 hours. Brought that dog home, and I don't recall that dog ever having an accident, not once. It wasn't a house training issue. It was she was pooping at the end of her kennel for cleanliness, but in her excitement and fear, she was not paying attention and stepping in it. That dog was very clean, never rolled in the mud, never came in a disaster. Very, very clean dog. But in that kennel, she had limits and she had stresses that were interfering. Let me tell you, I'm a very clean OCD kind of person. Like my kids will tell you that I want everything put back where it goes unless I'm stressed out. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have those times where I just like rage clean and everything has to be clean right now or I'm going to lose my mind. I do. But when I am stressed, sad, depressed, I don't keep up on it because it's hard. And so then it looks like I'm not that kind of person. But I really am. It's just in moments, right? So I learned a lot from this. Now, going on, I left in 2013, went on to work at different places, and during COVID, you know, I worked at Ross County Humane Society, and we had all these 40 kennels. It was always loud, even in the next room. She could barely hear sometimes. You had a headache most of the time, which is also part of the hard part about working in a shelter, is that, you know, the dogs are loud, and most of the shelters are not designed for keeping the sound down. So it's harmful to human ears and animal ears. And ironically, a dog who is in pain might bark. So the barking is causing the pain, and then they keep barking. Conundrum, right? But dogs don't get that. So when COVID came and we had to shut down and you couldn't let anybody through, and we were like, oh, what are we going to do? Nobody's going to, you know, what was going to happen? We had already figured out by then that there were some dogs who showed horrible in their kennels and better in person. So with those dogs, we were already, as much as possible, bringing them up for people to meet and not letting them meet them in their kennel. Because when you see this dog acting a fool in his kennel, it's hard to want to take that home. Kind of like you wouldn't want to be my friend if the first time you met me, I'm rage cleaning and I'm yelling about how my life is falling apart because my house is not clean, right? That's not a good time to meet me. That's not going to give you a good impression. So we already knew that. When we had to shut down, no volunteers, no people walking through the kennels all the time to, you know, just looky-loo or maybe really look for an adoptable animal. We started, like, I think we were a week or so in when it hit us. Hey, the kennels are quieter. And every once in a while you'd hear the squeak of a toy or a bone being thrown. And sometimes you would go back there and you would see a dog actually taking a nap or resting enough that when you walk by, they just raised their head to look at you. They didn't launch themselves on the door. And we were like, what is happening? We had no idea. We didn't understand it, right? Because at this point, I have now done that kind of work for 7 years, and everybody lets people walk through the kennels. So for a good, 4 to 8 weeks, no volunteers, no, people walking through the kennels. It was great. and they were starting to lift things. And I remember cringing and going up to my old boss and being like, are we going to go back to letting people walk through the kennels? And she was like, no. And I was like, yes. Why? Because the dogs were calmer. They were holding their personalities longer. They were playing. They were resting. They were taking naps. They were learning to let us leash them up in the kennel instead of that hole where you open the door and they just run out and you try to lasso them as they go by. They were standing in their kennels and letting us leash them up. They were acting like dogs that people would want to adopt. And we weren't having headaches all day. We weren't cringing at going back there. We weren't, struggling, trying to do our own things with all this loud chaos going on, okay? So imagine that you're not a hard rock fan, right? You're not a headbanger, but where you work, there's head-banging music as loud as you can't stand, and you're supposed to concentrate and try to do your job. That's what working in a shelter is like. It's very hard. So, of course, when I came to this shelter, that's the first thing I changed. And yes, people don't like it. And I used to get yelled at and cussed at and accused of hiding things. And trust me, those kennels are cleaner now than they ever were before I came, and not let you back there. It has nothing to do with that. I've done many live videos when I go through. We aren't cleaning those kennels up before I do those live videos. We aren't hurrying up and scrubbing things and making them look better. We are just going through. If you see a kennel that's got a destroyed animal or fragments of a toy, that's what it looks like. And I'm sorry, but most of us have dogs in our home that do that too. Sometimes I come home and the dogs have dug a hole in the bed and there's stuff everywhere, right? That's not a dirty house. That's just a dog doing dog things. And why it happened that day, we'll never know. So it is for the benefit of the dogs. Some people still believe that's the only way they can pick the dog. But I promise you it's not. And even if it is, we are there for the animals. We are their owners, essentially. We are the people that are taking care of them, that have to do the best we can for them. So despite the fact that it might be better for you as a person to do it that way, which I promise it really is not, it is not better for the animals. And that's what we're there for. That's our job, is to do what's best for them. And the more times that they are riled up, good, bad, or otherwise, the less they can calm down. The more amped up, excited, stressed, whatever you want to call it, it's harder to get someone to take home a 60-pound dog who can't sit still and they're jumping all over you. Or they're sounding like they might want to eat you. Or they might actually be acting that way. I'm going to tell you right now, come here, little man, I'm fostering this little fluff ball here with the gigantic name of Pineapple Upside Down Cake. Yeah, I know. I call him Dump Cake. So this little guy is pretty friendly for the most part. But if you meet him in his kennel, he's not friendly because he's trapped. And when he's trapped, he growls and he snaps and he gets very loud. And he's scared because when you have strangers walk back there and the dogs lose their minds, he goes, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. Now you just saw him. He's licking my face. He's letting me snuggle him. We brushed him and everything. No attitude. But if you met him in that kennel, he would be a total jerk. And you would be concerned. Now, does he still have moments that he can be a little bit of a jerk? Yes, he does have insecurities. He's only been in my house for 2-3 days. So he does get a little scared. The first time he was crated, when my husband went to get him out, he growled, right? Because trapped, again. So even loose though, when he doesn't read dog signals real well. So he got up, tried to get too close to one of my old dogs. And my old dog probably showed his lip, maybe showed his teeth. And this guy he's dingy and he doesn't pay attention. He also is like only has 30 to 50% of his eyesight. So he doesn't pay attention, right? Because he's dingy too on top of that. Well, my dog then went and, snapped and growled and screamed. And then he screamed. And after that, he was a lot more nervous about everything. So then when my kid came home, he was like, ooh, and he was loose in the house. And he still growled, right? Because he was scared. So, but you put this dog in the kennel, nobody wants to take this dog home. Only weird people like me that go, oh, are you spicy? Oh, is you grouchy? Let me put a leash on you and take you home. I'm the weird one, right? No, I'm not keeping him. He's very big on literally walking between your feet while you're walking, and I've about face planted many times. But anyways, he would be one of those examples. My big Mastiff, also not a good greeter inside of any kind of containment, which is how we ended up with her, because she was at a kennel and where they still have to let people walk through, and there was nobody going to take this dog home because she totally acted like she was going to eat them. So going through the kennels does not tell you what dog you want. If you want a dog who is going to live in a kennel for 23 and a half hours a day, then yeah, you might get the dog. You might see the dog you're looking for. However, if that's your plan, I'm not adopting to you, so it's kind of pointless. So it doesn't do anybody any good. There are dogs that have sat in those kennels way longer back in the day because of that. And all the people who just want to look at the dogs, not interested in adopting, they just want to see the dogs like a kind of a weird petting zoo type thing, they were adding to the excitement and the stress. So on the flip side, let's say they don't become loud and aggressive, they also can be withdrawn and depressed because, yay, you're here. Oh, you're not gonna do anything. Yay, you're in. Oh, okay. They eventually go, I'm not even gonna bother to get up. And then people walking through the kennels go, that dog doesn't like me. That dog is too scared. That dog doesn't look like it wants me to touch it. And then on the other side, that dog is too wild. It jumps too much. It barks too much. I need a dog that's not so loud. I need a dog that doesn't sound like he wants to eat me. I'm afraid that dog would be too much for my children, because you're seeing them at their worst, okay? That would be like meeting your significant other by you being locked in jail for no reason. You don't know why. And now other people are just walking through to see who they're going to decide to marry. And you're in there going, don't even think about coming in here because I don't like you, right? People don't realize that. Now, a lot of people are good about letting me explain it. And when I do, I say, imagine having 50 strangers walk in and out of your house every day. And a lot of them go, oh, my dog wouldn't handle that. Exactly. So while we know this is not their home, they don't. They have no idea why they're here. They don't know if they're here for a day or for the rest of their lives. So this to them it's the here and now. And the here and now is they're in these kennels. And as far as they're aware, they're only getting out when us staff members let them out. And once in a while when a volunteer comes with a leash, right? So they don't get that they're supposed to sit there and be polite and cute because you're there to adopt them. They have no idea. I know people want to think they do. They don't. They have no clue. So you want to get to know what dog is going to work for you, then you want to take advantage of our foster to adopt program. That is a much better way to see if that dog is a good fit for you. It is where you can take them home for a week, make sure they're going to get along with your dogs, with your cats, with your kids, with your lifestyle. You know, we only know so much about these animals. We might know what the owner has told us. We might know because of what we've seen. We might know because of what I am, experienced with. So what I see at the shelter, I've seen translate into other things. Sometimes I don't know why I know things. I can just tell. And a dog-friendly dog or a cat-friendly dog or a dog that's good with kids does not guarantee that they are going to be good with every child, with every cat, with every dog. okay? And there's the other side of that dynamic. Your cats, your kids, your dogs. So they might be great, but maybe one of those things doesn't work. Maybe they seem like a couch potato, but you take them home and they're not. Or maybe you're looking for an active dog and it turns out they're a couch potato. That has happened before. So that week-long foster to adopt, way better to make sure that you are getting the dog that you're looking for. Now, why don't we do this with cats? Why do we let you go into the room where the cats are? Because the cats are living like a large living room. They have chairs, they have their cat things, they have their litter boxes, they can climb up high to get away from people if they don't want to. They can go in the catio outside. They are not trapped, except for the ones in the cages. And those are for, transitioning. So the cats, it's the only difference for most of the cats is if they aren't good with living with 20 cats. They've only lived with 1 or 2, and there's a lot of cats in there. But most of the time, the cats are not stressed because they live more naturally. We just can't do that with dogs. There's just, the dynamics are different, and the amount of space you would have to allow 20 dogs to live together and not feel that they are fighting for space is bigger than our whole property. So it's just not possible. Now, if you're one of those people that just wants to stop and walk through the dogs or see the dogs or whatever that is, or maybe you just want to stop and walk one dog, here's why we don't do that. Because again, there's a specific scientific, been proven reason, and that is that the dogs, when they get out of their kennel, they need to stay out for a certain length of time to help them calm down. The dogs can't help it, right? You come up to the door, they're excited. They might be nervous too because they don't know if you're going to take them to the back to give them more pokes or if you're going to let them go out to the yard to run and play. If you're going to introduce them to another dog, maybe that's exciting and scary at the same time. Same thing, maybe they're going to meet people and that's scary and exciting at the same time. Or you're going to take them for a walk. They have no idea what's about to happen. The last car ride they took landed them here. Who knows? Or we took them out one time and we took them and got them neutered or spayed, right? And they went, yeah, that's not fun either. So there's a little bit of excitement and nervousness that can go into this. So that means that everything, they're like right here at this level of energy. And then when you come to the kennel with that leash, they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm terrified and I'm excited and I don't know. I'm so confused, right? Now you take them out and you walk them down the driveway for a real quick walk and then you come back. Guess what? When you put them back in, they were here, and now they're here. They did a bunch of research. Thank goodness they do a lot of research on dogs. Poor cats, they don't. But on the dogs, they actually did some research study about this and found that if you do not keep the dog out of the kennel for at least 15 minutes, longer is always better, at least 15 minutes, then you are putting them back in a higher state of amped up energy than you were to help them. So, once I found that class and I learned that, then that became the rule everywhere I've ever worked, 15 minutes minimum. What good are we doing to take them out and put them back up higher than they were, right? We're not. It's not doing them any good. And it's hurting them. It's mentally and emotionally hurting them, and it's hurting their chances of lasting long enough in those kennels to get adopted. It is hurting them on getting adopted because they are having a hard time being normal, right? We just had Angelina Jolie get adopted after 4.5 months of being in our kennels. That's a very long time. It is rare that a dog makes it 4.5 months, even in our situation, before they are going downhill enough that something happens, I'm not able to adopt them out anymore. We do our best, whenever we have a dog who prefers to be outside versus inside, we use our outside kennel so it's as close as we can get to it. If they need more yard time, we give them more yard time. We add more walks. We add more one-on-one. We are also one of the few shelters that the staff is actually walking the dogs. A lot of places are so either can't afford it or are so short staffed because the job is not easy that, or they just don't have the people in upper management that understand the significance and the importance of this to actually pay their employees to do those things. And when I started, that was one of the things that they did not pay their employees for. I remember the first time an employee looked at me and said, "Hey, can I clock out and walk this dog?" And I went, "Why would you clock out?" They're like, "Oh, we've always had to clock out to walk dogs." It's part of your job. If we're done cleaning and we're not waiting on customers, what else would you be doing? Walk the dog on the clock. So it's a sad thing, and I get when we're short staffed, walks aren't part of it. That's just, of course it is. But it's important. We want them to last. Angelina Jolie was one of those that made it 4.5 months and still got to go home and not be too entirely crazy and still kept her skills like she needed to, right? It's a lot. You know, you're jailing these dogs for reasons they don't understand. As far as they're aware, we're the ones keeping them from their old owners. They don't even realize that the owner is the reason we have them, because we're the ones that walk them away from the owner and put them in the kennel. So it's important that we do these things to extend their abilities mentally and emotionally to last as long as it takes so we can find them a home, because no one wants to do the other. We all know what the other is. The other is euthanasia. It's a bad word, but it's the truth. You know, when the dog stops eating, when the dog starts becoming so stressed out and aggressive that they can't be adopted because no one wants to take the chance and hope that they'll be okay when they get home, there's not a lot left to do. So nobody wants that. We're all trying to avoid it. So if you're a person who wants to walk a dog, even if it's just once in a while, we want you to sign up as a volunteer. We want you to know what the rules are. We want you to know how it works. We want you to know what to do, what we do, so that you don't have any blindside. We want to make sure everybody does everything safely, not because the dogs are dangerous, but because we don't want the dogs to get loose. We don't want the dogs to, get mishandled. Like Mr. Dumpcake here, if somebody went in his kennel and didn't handle him properly, he might bite them because he's terrified. And in that case, yes, it's justified, but it's also a liability, and it's hard to adopt out dogs that once you say they bite, they've bitten somebody, regardless of the situation, for anyone to take them, because it's a liability, because you're worried about your family. Yes, little dogs get a reprieve from that. They're more likely to get adopted even with that kind of bad history, but we mostly deal in big dogs. And big dogs don't get that second chance. They don't get that, somebody, they were scared. The dog was scared. The person did the wrong thing. So the dog bit, not understanding, and it's not the dog's fault. No, the dog gets the fault regardless of whether people understand it or not, because they're too scared to try. So if you want to walk dogs, volunteer. You can. You don't have to be interested in adopting to walk dogs, but you do need to be a volunteer. That is the part where we're kind of making that connection. And then we do let you go back in the kennels to get the dogs and stuff like that, because it is good for them to see other people besides the staff. We are not hiding anything. We are not, trying to keep the dogs from getting adopted. I love that one. The commissioners can't change it. There isn't anybody who can change it, because we're a nonprofit, we're private, and that's the rules that we have decided upon. And I am not just arbitrarily picking this. As I've explained, there are reasons for it. I have been in this business for almost 15 years. I have become a certified dog trainer, a behavior consultant. I even specialize in aggressive dogs in my own private practice as a dog trainer. I have tons of experience and situations to back up what I'm saying. Even before I came back, I was asked to assess 4 dogs. 3 of them, nobody was going to adopt. But the 4th one, I couldn't understand why nobody had adopted it. And the staff said, well, because he acts like a jerk in his kennel, but as soon as you get him out, he's fine. I said, then stop letting people meet him in his kennel. And the next day, they took, when somebody came and they said they were kind of thinking about him, They grabbed him, brought him up. He got adopted. He hasn't come back. Haven't heard anything different, but he got adopted. So, I had one guy come in a while back and he could not hear, did not want to hear any reasons why we couldn't let him walk back there. What he kept saying to me was, that's how I pick my dogs. Okay, well, that's about you, sir. It's not about the dogs. And I'm not here about you. I'm here for the dogs. Yes, I need people to come and adopt. But if I have to choose between a dog getting adopted and what's best for the dog, I have to do what's best for the dog. So if your situation is not best for the dog, then I'm going to not be able to let you adopt him. If you want to take a dog like Dump Cake, who's terrified of his shadow, and make him live outside, I'm going to say no. Why? Because he is going to be absolutely terrified his whole rest of his life. He's not strong enough for that. Now, we get a dog who wants to live outside, and you want an outside dog, I'm cool with that. Win-win for everybody. You want to take a dog who wants to live outside and try to get them to live inside, I'm going to allow that. Knowing that if it doesn't work, you might have to be okay with the dog being outside instead. It does happen. There are dogs like that. So I'm not going to get adoptions at the detriment of the animal if I know ahead. Now, every once in a while we adopt an animal to somebody and we get some comments about, oh, they're blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. We don't know everybody's history. We can't judge a book by its cover because promise you we would be wrong half the time. And then, of course, we get yelled at for that. You don't want to do that either. So we're here for the animals. We're doing what's best for them. We're not just arbitrarily picking this out of nowhere. We have our reasons for it. We will show you pictures. I get that looking at a picture isn't enough, but everybody has a parameter that they're looking for. There is very rarely a person who literally can come in and take anything from a 2-pound to a 150-pound dog and be okay with it. That's not how life usually works. Everybody has preferences. Everybody has a size preference. Everybody has a breed or a sex preference. Maybe you don't really care boy or girl. That one can happen pretty often. But a lot of people do have oh, I don't want to do grooming. I do want something that has to be groomed because I don't want the shedding. And usually when we talk to people, we can narrow it down. I want something under a year. I want something over 3 years. We only have 16 kennels. By the time you get done with your parameters, there might only be one that would even work. And yes, we can bring you the others. But if they're not going to work for you, we don't want you to push yourselves into something that is not a good fit for you. So again, we're not hiding anything. It's not to be jerks to you. And also, if you've ever been in the shelter before me and now after me, I think even you can agree it's a lot quieter. It's a lot easier to talk. You don't cringe. You don't get a headache because the dogs are nonstop. And by the way, sometimes when the dogs do bark, we also get yelled at for that too. We had a guy call us on the phone and the dogs were losing their minds. We don't know why, but something was happening and they were barking. And so it was making it hard for the person on the phone to hear because the kennels start literally on the other side of our office wall, right? And he told her, you guys are a humane society. You shouldn't have barking dogs. So we got yelled at because the dogs were barking and they couldn't hear us. So we can't win no matter what we do. So I hope you have a good day. I know this was a little longer, but I finally found something that I felt a little passionate about again to explain. It is for the good of everyone. So take advantage of our foster to adopt. If you want to walk dogs, you want to spend time with dogs without adopting, become a volunteer. If you want to foster just to get a dog a break, sign up as a foster. If you want to foster something to see if it's a good fit for you as an adopter, then you just need to come in, meet the dog, and then we'll do the foster to adopt. We don't do foster to adopt on puppies under 4 months old because For one, they usually don't have all their vaccines, and two, they're tiny puppies. Their personalities aren't even all that apparent in that first couple of months that they are here. So those are a lot easier to just integrate. Over 4 months, we will start to let you take them home and give it a try and see what you think. So I'm out. Have a good day.